Welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Trey. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the show, listen to the show, however you consume it. We appreciate you. We have a great show in line for you today. We've got the legend himself, Cedric Walker, on the show. He's one of the original legends of arena football in the 90s. He transitioned into coaching after his playing career, and most recently, he won the ArenaBowl with the Billings Outlaws this past year. So we dive into everything throughout his playing career, how he got involved in the game, how he got involved in coaching, what keeps him around, and some of the highlights of his career, both on the field as a player and I guess technically still on the field as a coach as well. So had a really great chat with him and excited for you guys to see that. But before we dive into that, please give us a follow on all of our socials at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball. We're on Instagram, X/Twitter, and TikTok. So please go give us a follow on each of those. Starting to diversify what types of content we put on each. So it encourages you to give us a follow on each of them. Yeah, look at that. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow. It helps get us in front of more eyeballs, helps the whole algorithm push it to some folks that may not know that they need Off the Wall. So do it for them if you're not going to do it for me. And if you listen on Spotify or listening on Apple Podcasts, please go to the show page, give the show 5 stars. Again, does the same thing, pushes it to anybody who might be looking for a football podcast, arena football podcast. If we have enough ratings and we're high enough on the search results, we'll get more people to join our little cult that we got going on here, dedicated to arena football. So we'll dive into the interview with Coach Cedric Walker in a second. After the interview with Coach Walker, we're going to talk about some AF1 news. Have a new team that's debuting in 2025 that was just announced earlier this week. We have a new team that thinks they're debuting in 2025, which we'll dive into that a little bit. And then we'll talk about some IFL player transactions and coach announcements that have been announced or are going to be announced very, very soon. So we'll dive into all of that after the interview with Coach Walker, but let's not waste any more time. Here's Coach. All right, joining us on the show today, we have an all-time great of arena football. He's one of the few people in arena football history who's won an ArenaBowl as a player, a coordinator, and now a head coach this past year. He's the head coach of the Billings Outlaws. His name is Cedric Walker. Coach, thank you so much for joining the show. I know it's a busy time for you, but how are things going in your world?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I like that introduction. I didn't know that. So, I'm going to enjoy it, enjoy this moment and see what we can do this time next year.
So to kick things off, I want to take it back to the beginning. You started your arena football career in the mid-90s as the original AFL was starting to ascend.
Right.
What was your introduction to arena football, and how did you initially get involved?
Well, actually, I was I was with the Bears in 94 and 95, and I got released. And then after I got released, I went back home to Diboll, Texas, and I was working with a friend of mine named Ruben Estevez. He was running the Boys and Girls Club, and I got a questionnaire from the Orlando Predators saying, fill this out, we're inviting you to camp. It was just very random. And I was like, man, I don't know what arena football is. And then it was coming on late at night. And then that's when the Tampa Bay had the Zumba pants and everything. The wall was falling over and everything. And I'm like, man, there's no way I'm going to be doing this.
Yeah.
But, I was working at the Boys and Girls Club, and he just said, man, just do it. So I filled it out, and then probably about a month later, I forgot all about it. I got a plane ticket, and I'm like, "What's this from?" And they said, "Hey, congratulations, you've been invited to Orlando Predators training camp." So I ended up going down there. That's when you had to go both ways, and it was been a while since I had played both ways down there, and broke my thumb when I had one of my best receiving things in playing arena ball. And actually, that was the last time I played offense. And then after that, Coach Perry Moss. Coach Perry Moss was a great man. Me and him had a bad, it was my fault, a bad reaction to a game film because, coming from the NFL, you think this game is beneath you and everything instead of this being able to provide for you. So me and him got into a bad argument, and I'll never forget this. Ahmad Fields, man, he took me outside. He said, young guy, you can't do that. I said, man, I was just frustrated. And he said, you can't talk to coaches like that. I said, okay. I said, you think they're going to cut me? He said, oh, yeah, they're going to definitely cut you.
Yeah, you're gone.
yeah, they're going to definitely cut you. So I ended up getting cut. Then I went back home, and then Coach Coach Stout, man, he was coaching in Charlotte, and Charlotte had a team. And I guess at that time, the guy who he was getting ready to start all the Rocky movies, he was our owner at the time. And so I went up there, man. We was in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It was called the Charlotte Rage, man. When we had put a team together, and I think at that big time, that's when betting started. We were playing against Tampa Bay, and we were it was like one of the biggest numbers in bet. So our owner bet $100. I think he got like 5,000 off the bet, and we went down there and upsetted them.
Wow!
So we were ready. We was all happy, and then at the end of the season, I went back home and I was going to buy my first vehicle, and come to find out the team folded, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know what's going on. And then I had a call from probably the greatest man that ever taught me the game was Doug K. And he called me out of the blue, and he was like, hey, I just need you to trust me. They're going to have an expansion draft. I just want you to say that you're not going to play. I'm like, well, Coach, I want to play. He said, if you trust me,
no, you don't.
If you trust me, you know it's going to happen. So I'll never forget that. And Mike Owens, he called me out of the blue and asked me about playing. I said, man, I'm not going to play. I'm done. It was just an easy thing. And it was like 3 other teams called and said, man, we want to draft you. I'm like, look, I'm done playing. There's too much going on, uncertainties. And then the draft was over. So by the hour, 2 hours went by, the phone didn't ring, and I'm thinking to myself, did I make a mistake here? Man, and then he called me back, and it actually was the last time he ever called me by my name. It was because he always calls us by our numbers. He's like, Cedric, man, thank you for trusting. He said, I have a couple of guys from Texas. That's when I got to meet Hunky, Gatewood, Bo Kelly, myself, Sed Bonner. So in '97, I went down there and was part of probably the best team that we put together. There was no egos on that team. Danny White did a hell of a job of coaching. Like I said, Doug K, he taught us. We were reading knuckles. I had a knuckles stance. So he actually got me into the game. And then, you think about it, we won in '97. I had a bad injury in '98, came back in '99, and we were always in the game. And then free agency hit. I decided to go to Indiana, and went to Indiana at that time, and went to Indiana. And then that's when the business really part of this kind of was the best thing. I was sitting right next to him. I tell the guys this, and I have no problem saying he was telling me I was the best thing since sliced bread. And he cut me. I'm like, hey, just do what you got to do, and then cut me the next day.
No.
Yeah, he cut me the next day. And at that time, my oldest daughter was a baby. She was coming to visit me. Her and her mom was coming to visit. And Mike Daly, that's who it was. Mike Daly.
There it is.
Mike Daly told me that. And so I was panicking, didn't know how to do it, make sure that, because they were getting ready to come. And it took a good guy, Coach Hodkins. Ed Hodkins reached out to Coach Owensy, who was coaching in Chicago, and said, man, we're about to release a good guy. I think you should pick him up. So they ended up picking me up, which was good. Went down there, and I got to play with Derek Stingley, which was a huge thing. Him and then,
oh, very cool.
Yeah, I got to play with him. I got to play with who else was down there? I'm just looking at it. He's DP, Damian Porter, who was probably one of the best two-way guys at the time. Got to play with them. So we thought we was going to have a good team, and then they got rid of Stingley, and that was tough because we got a bond there. And we ended up making it to the semifinals a couple of times, and then Austin came in. I got traded to Austin at the end, and finished my career there in Austin. I played a couple of games in Vegas, played 10 good years. And then after that, I was thinking about just doing real estate. And then my ex-wife at the time said, man, I think you'd be good at coaching. And I'm like, that's too much. I ain't doing all that. So at that time, Gary Compton had got the job in Bakersfield. That's when he used to have the AF2.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me. He's like, do you want to coach? And, man, I drove from Victorville, California to Bakersfield every day for practice because, my daughter was young, and so I had to watch her and how we had everything.
Right, yeah.
And we lost in the semifinals that year to Spokane. And Chris Siegfried always won't let me down on that one because they end up winning it because we lost on a fourth down play.
Reminds you.
It just really kind of took off because I ended up coaching here. I coached in Everett, coached in Tri-Cities. I ended up coaching, and after the Tri-Cities, I met probably one of the three greatest men that kind of taught me was Bob Lindsay, God rest his soul. Man, he took me in, and he really was just the one that kind of started me to understand what coaching is and everything because he was what Coach Stout. I was with him. I was with him in Green Bay, and then we ended up going to Milwaukee. So we was in Milwaukee from 2000. I'm going to make sure 2010 and 2011. And then by that time, Coach Darren Arbett, Hall of Famer, the greatest AFL coach there is, he called me and said, "Man, we would like for you." He didn't even get it out. I take the job. So think about it.
Yes,
I take the job because at that time they were the standard.
For sure, yeah,
they were the standard. So I went into that thinking I knew everything, and everybody laughed because we talk about this at the coaches meeting. And I was talking to Coach, and this is where the work ethic and this is where the knowledge of the game, because between Coach Arbett, Coach Terry Malley, George Atkinson, and then probably one of the best owners of football, Mr. Fry, John Fry, they had a standard in regards to how things were done. So everybody walked into the building, they said the exact same thing. It was a different type. And, I went in and I said something to Coach Arbett about, "Hey, yeah, we're going to ricochet this right here." And he said, "There's no ricochet in my playbook." Like, well, yes, no, there's no ricochet in my playbook. So we were in there and he said, "This is what I want you to do." We had this little bitty film room. He's like, "Look, you're going to go in that film room, you're going to watch film, and then for a whole week, the only time you can come out is we got to use the restroom or we having lunch. Other than that, when you come out, you better know my playbook back and forth."
Right.
So I was like, whoa. So went in there, did that, and that was, to me, was the best thing because now I understood what, structure, how everything went, how everybody in the building from top to bottom was saying the exact same thing. It wasn't, well, I thought this, I thought that. It was like well-oiled. So, I was there from 12 to 12, 13, 14, and 15. In 15, we had the best arena team to ever do it. We went 20-1.
Yeah.
And in the one game that we lost, man, you thought the world was going to end because guys believed in it. And then, Coach Arbett had a standard. This was a standard. And that's why I always go with the phrase, the standard is the standard, because he's like, as soon as I get off that standard and I'll allow you, then I've failed. And he hated the words that he hates. I don't like using people, because if you're not doing it, I feel like I'm using, I don't want to do that. I want people that's going to understand what it takes. And when you leave here, you can take this work ethic and then whatever, how we have everything, you can always apply it to day to day. So after that, when we were 21, that was huge. Then the league, Mr. Fry, said it was time. The Sabre Kats left.
Yeah.
And I got into real estate for a little bit. Brown and Brown up in San Jose. They were great people. So I did that for 2 years, and then got a call from Omar, and Omar Smith, who was in Baltimore, got me out of retirement. Went down there, and we lost to Washington in the final game there. That's the team that if you go back and look at it, probably won 2 games, and they got hot in the playoffs.
Got hot at the right time.
Yeah. So we did that, and then we lost in the semifinals the year 2018. And by that time, 2019, there were some teams coming in, and then that's when the league went. I think the league went down, and that's when COVID kind of hit. So by that time, everything was kind of like we don't know what's going on because I got caught in Louisville because I was down there helping Coach Stout with a team. I got caught in Louisville. And then I just said, man, look, I'm done with this coaching stuff because there's so much going on. And then got back to Texas. And then Sam Adams called and he's like, man, I need you to come down here and be my defensive coordinator because that's when Spokane was in the IFL.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm good with that. I get back into it. He took care of me and everything. I get down there, not even a week, him and Billy back get into it. They're arguing, and before you know it, I go from that to the head coach. And I'm like, okay,
All right. Yes.
That was
that escalated quickly.
It was. So by the time we get ready for the season, it gets started, and then right before the week before the season start, we got guys getting ready to fly in. The league kicks us out because Sam didn't pay his bills. I'm like, man, I'm really done. I said, I can't do this.
Yeah, for real this time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in Tri-Cities, and I was there, and sitting up there, and then all of a sudden, one of my old players, Raymond McNeil, reached out. He said, "Man, did you see where this coach fired his whole coaching staff?" I'm like, "Mid-season?" He's like, "Yeah, mid-season fired," and it was a CIF team.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time, I'm like, "Man, I don't know nothing about no CIF, all that stuff." So it was random because one of our coaches who was with us, Bones, I think his name Bones. Yeah, Bones. His agent reached out and said, "Hey, man, they want to talk to you about it." I'm like, "Okay, whatever it is." And it was in Gillette, and at that time, that's when Steve had just bought Gillette. So he bought the team. They lost to a semi-pro team, and he just went in and fired everybody. So he brought me in. He brought me. He brought Coach Lachlan in, and he brought in, I forgot what this other coach name, and he didn't know nothing about coaching. And so we coached 2 games, and he didn't know nothing about it. And I just told Steve, I said, "Man, if you're going to do this the right way, man, you need to start from scratch, build this, put all this stuff up." So he listened to me, and we ended up, Steve ended up firing him. Bones came in and kind of helped us out at the end. We ended up making the playoffs. We lost to Billings, actually. We lost to Billings. And then after that season was over with, Steve and I sat down and we talked. He's like, "What do what's your thoughts, about, coming back and doing?" I said, "I have no problem with it. He was a good dude. He was young, didn't understand it. The one thing about and then he ended up buying 2 teams. So he bought the Billings teams, and I was like, okay. And then he asked me, he's like, "Where do you want to go to Billings?" I said, "No." I said, "We got to fix this first, and we have to fix that." So after we had a conversation, we had a game plan. He told me what his vision was. I told him what my vision was. And my biggest thing is, if we're going to do this, I moved there, be part of the community, and then end up moving there. Stayed in Gillette. We turned a laughing stock team into a 7-3 team. We lost in the semifinals to Salina, who ended up losing to Omaha and CIF. And then by that time, he came to me and he said, the AFL is coming. I'm like, shoot, I know the AFL. That's my
now you're talking my
language. Let's talk about it. So by that time, the guy that was our commissioner, I'm not going to say his name because everybody know who he is, came in and sold everybody a pipe dream in regards to what was going on. But the one thing that I'm very proud of Steve, is that he listened to me because I told him what I was used to, how everything was ran, with Jerry Curse, when running it, and this didn't add up. So we made contingency plans, and he listened. And we think, you think about, we're one of the few teams that took care of everybody, made sure everybody did what we're supposed to do. And so he sat down, gave me his vision, and then he told me he wanted to be the first champion of the new league, and he's telling everybody. I'm like, well, all I know, we can go 1-0. That's our job. And like I was saying earlier, is that we got great young players. I think we only had 2 guys that had AFL experience, and that was Danny Southwick was one of them, and then we had a kid that we ended up releasing. Those are 2 guys that we had that had it, but we just took our, myself, Coach Bonner, Coach Turner, we all played arena football, some form of indoor football, and we just trust our coaching, and our guys bought into it. It was tough in the beginning, just like with anything, because a lot of these guys, you get everybody on the same page, and then you got to make sure the right type of leadership in regards to understanding, what they can and can't do. So the first couple of weeks was tough. I mean, it was really, really tough. And then we had our Army guys come in. Caleb came in and got him in shape, and every time they see him, they got nervous because he put him to work and he made them think. And after that, we got our first game against Wichita. Guys, you can tell because that's when we were playing Ironman football. And guys were like, okay, I said, we did this all the time, And then some coaches, and then it kind of really didn't rub me the wrong way, because when we first started the bring back the reboot, it was Ironman football, but we had lazy coaches that couldn't coach it. So what they ended up doing is they complained, and you do a lot more complaining, everybody do it. So instead of you trying to make yourself better, you took the easy way out, but it wasn't no problem when you was getting checks. So that really kind of affected us how we put our roster together.
Yeah, for sure.
You think about it, we missed out on a lot of guys who were dominant offensive guys, dominant defensive guys, but we had to find guys that we had to project. Right. So once we kind of figured that out, and then once Mr. Fisher came in as a commissioner and said, hey, we're just going back to, the standard football, we made a couple of adjustments here and there. Really didn't bother us none.
Right.
Because we had guys that can do it. But once we got that, guys bought in. Our leadership was great. Isaac Harker was a great leader. We had Jamez. Kimbrough was great. Let me see who else I thought did a great job. Dwayne Brown did a great job. We picked up Cedric Thomas, who was with Iowa. He came in, he did a great job. And then we picked up Armani Carey when he was released, and that was a tough one. Once we got him, that was good. And then realistically, we had guys, and I think the biggest two was, they gonna laugh at me when I tell them, was Bo and Luke Duke. Bo and Luke Duke, we had when we picked up Hunter Swoboda. Yeah. We got when we ended up getting my guy Blake. We got Blake. Blake Mitchell. He came in his first week. He's out there fishing and cooking for the guys. You think he was looking day one? It just. I mean, it was everything.
He just fit in.
It just fit. It was just fit. I mean, we wasn't. I don't think we were the most athletic team, but those guys genuinely loved each other, and they really cared about it. And I think the biggest glue that kept everybody together, and everybody's gonna laugh, was Bailey. Bailey Giffen is the guy that kept everybody. It was just a good thing. It was a great group of guys, and they believed in us. They believed in the coaching, and the one thing is like I was telling you early, when I talked to when we and Steve talked, everything that Steve was saying, I was saying, the coach was saying, the players were saying, all the way down. So it was just like we took that model from San Jose, and then it worked for us.
Yeah, the transparency from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Obviously, it worked there. Yeah. You guys did it this year. Yeah. I'm noticing a trend.
Yeah,
and that seems to be the way.
And that's and when I talked to Steve about it, that's what I learned in San Jose. Man, we come in, Mr. Fry would tell us what his vision is, and then his vision would go to Coach Arbet. And then from Coach Arbet, it came down to us. And then what we ended up doing, we ended up putting it to the players. So everybody in that building was saying and doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So going back to your playing days, I've gone back and watched some old arena games, and you were a hitter out there. Like you were laying the lumber on some folks. How did you approach the game to play with such physicality like that?
That was my role. And it's funny because I didn't become that until I got to Arizona, because I was a finesse guy. But Coach K, how we were set up, we were a very smart team because how he set it up. The one thing that we didn't have was the physicality part. So I'm like, well, I do it. Let me do it. You know what I'm saying? I do it. So that became my role. I was the enforcer. And we had like Cecil. We had Gatewood. I told them, y'all can have the interceptions. I'm gonna knock people out. Once you do that first one, everybody's going to kind of panic and everything. So that was my role. I knew that in order for us to win the championship, I had guys like him. I had guys like Hunky that can do all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know, I had guys like Peace. We call him Peace, but that was my job was just to knock you out. And then if it was to the point where I had to take a penalty because you was messing with, then I have no problem doing it. You know, but that was just my role.
And you played it to perfection.
Oh, I had to. Let me tell you something. Our practices, and I told the guys this, our practices against Calvin, against Hunky, against them, they were tougher than the game. So we were ready for it. And the thing is, it's like it wasn't to the point where, you know, you getting in trouble by Coach Danny White. It was more like what, you know, Hunky was waiting on you, and Hunky for he was a little guy. He played big, and he was and he had, like I said, he had that standard. So we was more worried about what he would say than what the coaches would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't let Hunky get one over on you. Can't let that.
You can't because there's a lot of things I can't say now, but you would never think a little man can do what he do and say what he say, but he get his point across.
Right. Yeah. And that's an interesting point with those late 90s Rattlers teams. Yeah. The team you're facing in practice is better than anybody you would ever play.
Yeah. And any
other teams.
And the thing is like we got after each other, and then once practice over, it was over. Because we would practice and we would just fight at each other. We do it, and as soon as practice over, we'll go out and have a drink. We'll go out, just
all good.
But it was like I said, that team was different. The 2015 team was different. Mm-hmm. This one, and it all had like joints, because like when me and Coach Bonner would talk, we wouldn't even talk about the player. I said, man, that's Gatewood. Oh, that look at Cecil right there, because he knew what I was talking about.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, because like, you know, to me,
speaking a different language.
Yeah, because I'm like, man, Cedric Thomas reminded me so much of Cecil. You know, he was quick. He, you know, I knew his strength, so I couldn't put him on a big receiver because that's how Cecil was. Like, I had to take a big receiver, and he would take the little guys and everything. So it was easy to kind of relate when we saw things, and when we looked at film, and I'm like, oh man, that's Gatewood. You know what I'm saying? Look at Hunky there.
That's fun,
man. Yeah, you know, we had a kid. Oh God, Joe Birch. Jameis reminded us so much of Joe Birch. I mean, it was just, I could just say that to him. He's like, yeah, you're right.
He's like, oh yeah, checks out.
It's just like it. And then the one thing is, it's like middle of the season, we both called Doug, Coach Doug K. He, like I said, he never calls us by our names. The last time he called me was when he said, "What's up, 5? What's up, 13?" And then, you know, we got some words of wisdom, and he just told us to enjoy it. We're doing a great job, and just keep doing what we're doing. And that to me, that means a lot, because to take that knowledge from him, take that knowledge from Coach Orbett, from Coach Malley, and, you know, Coach Lanzi, and then put it into it, and then be able to help these kids, because there's really realistically nothing that these kids haven't been through that I haven't been through. So it's easy for me to relate to them or be able to tell them, hey, this is your thought process. You got to be careful. This could happen and everything. And I think that's where it kind of got funny with Hunter, because we kept telling Hunter all this stuff. He kept like, man, how you know all this? And that's when he did his homework, and he kind of found out. Yeah,
that was actually going to be my next question. We had Hunter on the show a little bit earlier this year, and we were talking about him, like, when did you realize who Coach Walker and Coach Bonner were? And he was like, dude, when I looked up the games on YouTube, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And like, did you ever have a moment with this team where you're like, guys, we know what we're talking about. Like, here's how. Like, I literally did this exact same thing that we're asking you to do. Did you have those types of moments?
We did. You know what? Let me tell you when it came out, when we lost to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Because I told them, I said, man, we've been there. You know, it hurts, because you got to realize, you know, when you start winning, you start smelling yourself.
Yeah.
You take things for granted. But when we lost to Nashville, we kind of reverted back to that and let them know that feeling. Because if we do that again, that feeling's going to be with you for 6 months. So we had guys go back. Mm-hmm. As coaches, we had to rewire some things, and then we talked about it. We talked about that. We talked about our 9-17 in the playoffs. We told them how when we played Tampa was the hardest. That Tampa Bay game was the hardest game. We had lost Cedric because he had broke his ankle, and we had brought Donnie in, and everybody thought we had lost, and we beat them in overtime. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, we beat Nashville. with the last second kick by Bailey. And I told him that was going to be the hardest game. The championship game was going to be easy because you finally got there. And realistically, the championship game was easy, even though the score, was closer than what us. But the guys understood it. It wasn't to the point where we didn't make the game bigger than what it was because we knew, Bonner's been there. Coach Manaya, who has won nine championships, he's been there. Coach, Coach Chris Turner, he's won 4 championships. He's been there. So it's just enjoy the moment. And the one thing that the kids, and I'll keep calling kids, they listen. They listen and they understood. And that's one thing about, when you get these young kids who are fresh out, they don't have no bad habits. Well, Coach, we did this and such. This is not such and such. Now if we teach you the game, when the game hits the point, you're going to do subconsciously what's been taught to you the right way instead of the easy way. And the thing is, and I told the guys, when we lost to Nashville, that was on me because I had a kid in there playing that shouldn't have been playing. But I thought that, and I always tell them about the football gods. The football gods are always going to find that weak link when times hit. And I told them I would never do that again, and it cost us,
and it's interesting that when you put it that way about the young guys being like they don't have the bad habits.
Yeah.
It definitely worked in your favor because a lot of the teams last year, they were loading up on veteran arena guys, veteran indoor guys, and you just went the polar opposite where everybody except Southwick was a young spry guy. Yeah, and you were able to mold them to what you needed them to be. So that's an interesting takeaway for other teams out there.
It was tough talking to Steve about it, but I told Steve the one thing that we have to do, you have to trust your coach. That's why you pay them.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
Yeah, you trust your coaches. Some teams take the easy way out, try to get guys that are really, really good, but do it does it fit your program? And the reason why I did that, and like I said, Coach Urbetta probably killed me for saying it. In 2012, our first year in San Jose, we went and got all the best players. The best players. But once we put all that together, we won games, but we couldn't win a championship because they didn't fit. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't fit what we were looking for. And I mean, I would never forget, I'm like Coach Urbetta. He wants to practice. Practice makes perfect. Then we had a bunch of guys that didn't want to practice. And that kind of threw me off. And it was in 2012. I'll never forget that. And they had 2 of the older guys come in and talk to Coach Urbetta and say, Coach, man, we're practicing too hard. And for them to say that to him, and I thought he was going to snap. You know what? He's like, you know what, fellas? If we're practicing too hard, we'll take it off. We'll be fine. And I'm like, whoa. So as soon as those guys left, he called me into his office. I'm like, Coach, what's going on? He said, if that's going to make those guys play hard, then as a coach, I've got to change. But if we don't win the championship, as soon as we lose, they will never be here again. And I'm just like, okay. And
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
And I mean, and the thing is, we lost to Arizona. In 2012. They ended up winning it. And I promise you, man, those guys were crying and everything. And, Coach went there, shook his hand, said, hey, thank you. And everybody thought he was going to bring them, and he didn't bring none of those guys back because what he did, because he said, I know what works. And I know, so that's when we really kind of revamped and we went young and started getting it, and we started building it. So that's him and Coach Malley always believe in that. And that one time that we didn't, and he did it, because I think that's the first time the year prior that had his worst record. So he wanted to get back. But we did it. We did it. Go get young guys, trust your coaches. Your coaches are going to get you through those first 2 or 3 games. And then by the time you'll see the team kind of really, okay, this is what it is, then they'll take over. And that's what, and the guys understood. I think week 5-ish, the game in West Texas was a game, I think, that really kind of, okay, fellas, coaches, we got this now. The throw by Isaac, Carrance went over the wall to catch it, man, and just hit. That's when, okay, they're good now. They know what they're doing. Because,
starting to click.
Yeah, because it was just to the point where, it was 4th down, and then Isaac's like, Coach, I already know what we can do. I got to play for this. All right, cool. Let's go,
Let's do it, yeah.
Let's go do it. So it would. So that's when, it's good. So that's to me the plan. For me, because I trust my coaches. I know what I've been taught, and that's the way we're going to end up doing. We're doing it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you wrapped up your playing career, and like you touched on, you immediately got into coaching. Mm-hmm. What is it about arena football that has kept you involved for so long?
You know what? It's just the nuance of the game. It's the young guys who were like myself, that their goal is to get to the NFL, and then you got to realize, for every first rounder who gets that straight road, you got the and then I have to use it. You think about it. Cedric Bonner. Was with the Atlanta Falcons when they won. He was with the Chargers. He was with the Cardinals, and he bounced in. So you got to realize not everybody gets that. To be able to have that and be able to mold some of these young men and just let them know, football is only this much of your life. That's only because we don't understand it, we don't enjoy it. So you have to enjoy it. But you always, if you do things the right way, you take care of people, you're always a conversation away from somebody who can take care of you for a life.
For sure, yeah.
Relationship. So, and I learned that was one of the things from Coach Lancey that I learned, that I'm just like, okay, it's football. But he taught me that as a young coach. And then, Coach Arbet reiterated that stuff. Is just to be able to help these become young men. And, because football is going to be all right, but once football's gone, can they take that knowledge that they learn from you as a coach and then apply it in the regular world? And that's really the thing that keeps me going, because each year it's a different challenge, because you don't get the same team over and over and over. So it's a different challenge in regards to it. And it's fun because they keep me young. You got all these crazy rap songs and all these slangs and all this other stuff. So it keeps you young and it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Oh yeah, it is.
So you mentioned your stint in San Jose with Coach Arbet and from 2012 to 2015. And I was taking a look at those teams, and each year that defensive unit that you were running got better and better to that point where 2015 it was a historically good one.
Well, it was insane. Tell you that story. So that's the intriguing part about that, is that Mr. Fry has probably one of the best football minds I've ever been around. And then what we would end up doing, what got me to the point now, he would call me out of the blue, hey, let's go meet, talk football. Okay. Now you're talking to the owner. You're talking to the owner.
Yeah.
So he's sitting up there and he's giving you these and these. What are your thoughts on this? What would you do to this? What if? So talking to him made it to the point where, okay, I can have an answer for that, or if this. And the one thing is, it's like in the beginning, like anything, I didn't come through the San Jose, because I came from Arizona, and San Jose was the rivals, and I wasn't one of his guys, so I had to really his respect. I had to earn and he put me on that board, and he put stuff at me, and that's what made me, on top of myself, because every time I got around him, I got nervous, because he knew his stuff, and he made sure that, okay, if you're going to us, you better know what's going on.
Yeah, he's not just an owner throwing money around. He's locked in.
We played Utah in 2012, and we lost. We lost because we had a kicker that was terrible, and I think he missed like 3 or 4 extra points.
Oh, geez.
We get back. We get back. We don't even go to the house. We go to the office. He comes in. He's got this old San Jose SaberCat sweatshirt on, and he starts writing stuff. And I'm like, man, what is he writing? So he went through all the ratios of why we should have went for 2. And we should start going for 2 if we're going to keep this kicker. And he had all this stuff broken down. At that time, I knew it was real. I knew it was real. I'm like, oh, yeah. This is real. This is real. He's
not playing around.
Yeah, he's not. He's a multi-billionaire. And he comes in and he hits all this up. And he's like, you see this right here? This is what we might as well just go for 2 every. And he had it broken down to a science. I'm like, I got it. Yeah, he had it broken down. Yeah.
It's fair. Yeah. If the kicker's that bad, you might as well.
He didn't make it, but he just started saying, hey, if we get this point, if we miss if we miss an extra point, we score, we go for 2 here, go a couple of 2, then we're right back to where the numbers are adding up. So he had all that stuff breaking down. Yeah. And I'm talking about this is like off the plane straight to the meeting.
No time
he had
wasted.
all this stuff already ready. I'm like, man, that's unreal. Yeah, it was unreal.
Yeah, it's no surprise why San Jose was the franchise of the 2000s.
It was, man. Yeah, because he had the standard, and when he came in, and, he'll joke with you, and the thing about it, he'll joke with you. He would, but when it came to the point, like when we played Arizona, and Arizona was we had to get after him. And the thing is, put it to you like this: we had a special stuff for Arizona that we would practice, but we never run until we played them.
Yeah,
because Kevin Guy came from the same tree, so he was on that same stuff. So you think,
he was sniffing it out.
Oh yeah, so you had to build your P's and Q's when you played them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so funny to think about.
Yeah.
So flash forward to 2024. That was obviously a season for the books. I'm sure we'll hear a lot of stories in the future about all the trials and tribulations and everything. But Billings seemed to come out more than okay. Obviously, you guys won the championship last year.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about the relationship with Steve Titus that makes it work? I know you mentioned that he listens and he leans into what you say, but what makes it work?
I just think right now there's a big trust thing. I mean, he trusts me in regards to what I can do for him. The one thing is like I always say that I spend his money like it's my money. I don't go out and try to save him as much money as possible. I always give him scenarios in regards to what works, what doesn't work. And also the thing is like everybody keeps thinking this is AF1. It's the same AFL that started back in the 80s. It's the same thing, it's just the people have changed. And you look at the people who've been successful, this is how they do things. You look at the people who ain't been around here, this is how they do things. So really speaking, you really just kind of copy and see, what goes on with the positive. And what we end up doing, we just actually kind of took the San Jose motto. We tweaked it a little bit and he trusted. Now he's become a historian of football, so you can't tell him nothing now. And it's more of it's a great partnership because there's no egos. There's no egos involved. I know he's the owner. In the end, my job is if he tells me that I got to do it. I have to make it work.
Yeah, and it certainly seems that way where it's like you guys have an understanding of where you guys are.
I mean, we fight. Don't get it twisted. Now we do.
No, I believe it.
Yeah, we do fight, but we have a 3-day rule. After 3 days, everything is good, and then we get back at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when watching the Outlaws last season, it just felt like an old school AFL team, while a lot of other teams in the league just were different. We're a little more new age, so to speak. And when it makes sense when you got you and Coach Bonner calling the shots there. Right. I've heard in some other interviews that getting Coach Bonner on the staff was a long time coming. What was that conversation like with Coach Bonner to finally get him in the building?
Well, you know what, man, I was courting him for a couple of years. We almost had it. There was a team in Ontario that they were going to bring into it, and we got hooked up with some shady owners. And the thing is like when you sit up there and you know what it takes, and if my effort is here and then the owner effort is here, then we're not going to have it. I mean, our efforts got to be at the same. We got to have the exact same. Right. So when he came back, I called him. The beauty of it is he lived in Colorado, and that was kind of close. The hardest part was Mrs. Bonner. The agent is Bonner. So, and then they got, she wanted to make sure because I think he got screwed over one time when he was coaching in the OAFL, and I just told him before anything. I mean, he's a friend of mine. Before coach, I'm gonna make sure his sons, Mason, making sure because he's getting ready to go to wherever he wants to go because he's that good. And Cam, I think Cam is the second coming of Sed. He's just a righty. He can spin it. He was out there throwing. He was throwing for us. And I know I'm getting in trouble, but he threw Skelly for us, and he was spinning it. So
all right, let's go.
So to we had to make sure it was good with her because the boys are doing all kinds of things.
Of course.
But it was a blessing. It was great to have him. It was great because it was good because we can relate to things just by stuff how we did it in '97. I mean, we did so that, and everybody talking about it's not, but it's still arena football. And I think
Yeah.
some of these coaches, like you were saying, I think what they try to do is trying to add flavor to it. And you got to realize this game is not really set for that. I mean, you look at, we're playing on a 50-yard field, you got walls and everything. So you have to make sure that, this game is set up for you. And another thing is you got to be able to project and see, if this kid's an X, if this guy's a wing, if this guy's a Z, if this guy's a middle guy.
Right.
And that helps when you play the game. You've been around great coaches, and you also got great coaches on your staff.
It just came down to like even some of the play calling where I was watching some old Rattlers games from the 90s and I'm like, I think they dialed that up this year. Like that looks oddly familiar.
Yeah, he did. It's funny you say that because actually the one that DB Brown called where we ran the fake toss back into it, that's an old 97 play. Then we had the one we call it Gatewood where he had a choice. That was a play call called Gatewood. So we knew just by how he planned, he had all that set up for him and everything. So the beauty of it is none of this wouldn't have worked if Isaac Harker didn't go back and watch the old films and understand the nuances of the game.
That's great.
He went back and watched all the games, and he would come at us and he would talk about, hey, what happened on this? And then you were talking about, oh wow, we did this, this, and this on that. And then he's like, I like that play. So I'm like, okay, there you go. So it was great, and that's why this game is so wonderful because things can work. You can add your little tweaks to it. I mean, but the same thing that Coach Markham was running, same thing Coach Danny White was running, the same thing that Coach Dowd was running. They're still running now. But they, you got to the point where these guys, well, let's do this, do it. You can't really change it too much. I mean, you can tweak things here and there, but you're playing on a small field. You got the angles are a lot different, and if you don't understand the angles, it's kind of hard for what's called an RPO quarterback to play, and that's probably why that other league is so. If you in this game is set for quarterbacks who's got the touch, who can put and that's why I say I think Isaac Harker is perfect for this game. You had him, Jake Medlock up in Albany he could spin it. You think about it. That's the reason why I think our two teams were where we finished because you had quarterbacks that can understand the game and they can pros.
It's no accident those two teams met.
I mean, honestly, Coach Ware's done a hell of a job. When I watched them when they were in the NAL when they won it. He keeps good teams. He's got great coaching staff. And to me, they're still the standard. You got to realize this one year we joked about it at the coaches thing, and I told him, I said, we still got 2 more to catch you. And he's like, y'all won this year. I'm like, that, it is what it is. But it's a healthy, I think it's a healthy rivalry because watching what they've done, and when I say what they've done, I'm talking about on the field and off the field. They do things the right way. So we really try to emulate them and try to make sure that we're as close as we can to them.
Yeah, and I think like it's iron sharpens iron.
It is.
It's one of those things where you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No.
Just like off the field and on the field, the playbook is there to be successful. And you don't have to go crazy.
And the thing is like the one thing when we went to the meetings, everybody from Albany was very open. They were great people. We just sat down and talked because I try to get as much information from them. They asked me, and then at the end, Coach Ware gave me that smirk and said, "Hey, once football starts, I'm gonna have to get you." I'm like, "Hey, Coach, we're gonna be ready for it.
We're gonna get you first." Yeah,
it'll be good. Yeah.
So this past season's Outlaws team, it just had so many diamonds in the rough. Like we talked about Hunter Swoboda, DJ Harvey, Dwayne Brown. Like, where do you find these guys? And like, what does the scouting process look like to identify some of these players?
Great agents. I'm gonna tell you right now, pro level sports and the gridiron gang, man. Nicholas, Buddy, man, they're great people. And the one thing is that we treat their clients well. You got to realize the one thing about this league that we learned is like, even once the season over, the kids that's playing for you right now can make or break your program. Because if you go down there, if they leave and they had a bad experience, these guys know each other. Social media can get you. So we do what we say. Make sure they got 3 good meals. They got
Right.
a nice place to stay. Workout place. We got recovery place. We make sure as coaches that we take care of the guys. But one thing, the biggest thing is our owner. Steve. Steve makes sure that these guys have everything they have. When we travel, he has the bus full of drinks, juices, all kinds of stuff. So we treat them the way and I always go back to is how we did it in San Jose because I saw how Mr. Fry and Coach Arbet treated those players. They make sure everything was taken care of. And you got to realize that's the brand. So you got to realize that's the Outlaws, as you would say. They don't come to see Steve, even though he's the owner. They don't come to see me coach. They come to watch them play. So we got to make sure that these guys are well taken care of. So
Yeah, absolutely. So not to brag, but I was early on the Billings Outlaws hype train this past season. Now,
I appreciate it.
Week 2, I said the Outlaws are the best team in the league. It's on record.
Thank you.
So two-parter here.
Everybody else thought we were a tier 3 team.
Oh, I know. As soon as I saw that, I was like, y'all, I don't know about all that.
Yeah, it's okay.
But two-parter here.
Okay.
One, thank you for proving me right. I appreciate that. That earned me a lot of street cred out there.
Thank you.
And second part, was there a certain point in the season where you just realized we've got a hell of a team here? Like, was there a moment where it clicked?
West Texas, where it was, because I know Coach Siegfried. Coach Siegfried had a great team, and then you got to realize at that point in time they were hot. And we went down there and they got after us. I mean, they really got after us, and we got punched in the mouth early. And guys didn't panic, they didn't waver, and we came back and right then, because the one thing about this, and people are going to laugh, after the game, guys were, hey, coach, great job. And I said, man, let's just go have a nice team meal. You know where we went? Whataburger. That was that, and I'm like,
local cuisine, yeah.
So you think about it, like, man, these kids, and they, hey, coach, because the one thing that we try to do, with situational ball, how we practice, we try to put them in situations where they're going to fail. And so when they get to that point, they didn't panic, but right then, that's when I'm like, okay, we're going to be pretty good.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it's just early on. I was like, just all the things, all the pieces coming together. I'm like, this team is just different from the other teams that we see, and
we had good young leadership. We had good leadership at every position. Hunter came in right off the street and just he fit in. Like I said, Jamez on the D line when we got our Amani in. LQ did a great job when he came in, and then C is probably one of the smartest guys I've ever been around. He the game, and then the two guys that I thought I don't know how we did it with the two was with Isaiah McFarland and Sean. They were big guys, but the one thing they practiced their butts off, and then those three between Sed and then Harvey did Mr. Everything. They just bought into it. And they just listened to the game plan, and they were exactly what they're supposed to do. And then the thing is this all is we had good momentum, and then guys just started believing. And then once you start seeing it, okay, we talked about it when we lost to Nashville, like I brought it up earlier. That was a bad taste, because as bad as we played, we lost by 1.
Yeah.
Just think, if you're just thinking, I just said, that's just the football, guys. That was my bad as a coach. Because I shouldn't have had a kid playing. I should have trusted the kids that I had there. But as a coach, you live and you learn. And I just told them don't have that feeling again. And now that kind of sat there. And then you think about it, playing Albany. You think about Albany, and we had Nashville when they brought in Randy. That was a good thing. They'd had Randy the whole season. I think it might have been a different thing. The play
was deadly.
Yeah, you think about it. So. It was a tough one, but it was great because the guys believed. That's all that mattered. They believed. And then the thing is we took care of the guys. Well, not say we, but Steve took care of the guys off the field. He created special nights for the guys where he could go out and hang out, went bowling. We had we got guys who think they can golf. Did all that. So we just it was a good thing how he created that.
That's awesome. Yeah, you want to take care of all that stuff off the field, because you want them to only be worrying about the stuff on the field. If they're thinking about
And
if
it's
they're
funny
thinking about
because
where am I sleeping, like they're not going
yeah,
to give you the best performance, right?
yeah, because that's a lot of stuff like with me and him that we would get done, and he would ask me my thoughts, and then we would knock all that stuff out. And there was a lot of stuff that from the league that got to me that never got to them. You know what I'm saying? Because in the end, they made a commitment to come play for us. So we, as the
Right.
organization, got to do what we're supposed to make sure that they're good. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something I absolutely love about arena football, and I adore it so much. It's the big man touchdown.
Oh yes.
It's when you got like a big old lineman, like I think TA had one a little
Oh,
bit earlier
oh
this
man,
year.
we never lived
Um,
down that one. We never lived that one
like
down.
on a tight end screen,
Yeah,
or like Blake Mitchell getting the toss. I think it was
yeah.
in the playoffs and running around the corner. As a coach, how do you determine the perfect time to pull the trigger on something like that? Do you have an analytics guy?
No,
Is it a gut feeling?
actually, when we do the film breakdown and we look at the stats and we see how teams are, like the one with TA, TA gave him something at the top and then went that way. And then now, he caught it and he talking about he got skills and everything. So now in his mind, every time we get inside the 5, that's his play. So you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
realize when the big man scored, now you got to feed him. But
Uh-huh.
one thing is, it's just understanding the game. Coach Bonner did a great job of understanding the game, understanding the flow of it. And the one person that did that, and I go back to what history is, Coach Malley. Coach Malley did that well with the bigs. And then, we went back and watched the old film and everything.
Right.
But he did that, to make sure that everybody, that all the guys who are eligible to can pass can get it.
Yeah.
As far as Blake, I mean, if you think about it, man, we picked up Blake because he was in Nashville, and the coach in Nashville didn't use him. And when he got released, he reached out. He's like, Coach, man, because I tried to recruit him before, but he lived in Nashville. He said, man, if you still want me, I'm like, man, come on, you just
Yeah.
fit. I mean,
Bring it.
he fits. And you think about it, when we played Nashville, he gave it to Nashville, and I think he had like 4 touchdowns and 3 were against Nashville, and then
Yeah.
but yeah, so it was just you got to reward those big guys. Some of them think they can catch, and some of them that can't catch cold. So we'll leave that alone.
Yeah, yeah, but it is just a thing of beauty when when a big guy is just standing by
Oh yeah.
himself in the end zone and he just catches it. It's like, oh, it is so good. And just
It,
one of the things that
oh yeah, you
I
think
just
that's bad
can't.
when you got Coach Mania Smith over there talking about, man, shoot, I had 5 of them. So he gonna let you know about it. So you better catch it.
Yeah. So turning the page to 2025, it's a fresh start with
Yep.
Arena Football 1.
Mhm.
What are you most excited for as you start to prep for the inaugural 2025 season?
Leadership. With I think now our leadership at the top. When I say leadership at the top, with Mr. Fisher, Mr. Kurtz, Jerry Kurtz, who I call the Godfather, he's been back. Mike in Albany, and also with Steve here. We've got guys there that believe in this product. You've got guys who have sweat equity in this product, and it's a lot different when you have sweat equity in this product. You treat it a lot different instead of a guy coming in that don't know nothing about it, and he wants you to do X, Y, and Z. The vision that they have, they brought back some of the older guys that was part of it, bringing back Gary Compton. And then we got day one, and she'll probably laugh, we got Christy McEwen back. She's been with us since when I was playing. So, I mean, get those people who understand what it takes to make this game special. That's the main thing. And then the expansion, I know it's going to be coming out. We've got some good teams coming in. And the main thing is just making sure that the people who spend their hard-earned money is coming in and they're enjoying the product. And I think that also is going to be with the teams coming in, the coaches that they have, getting more coaches that understand the game, that understand to make this a better product, because now once we get these TV deals, people are going to want to see the Albany's, the Billings Outlaws, they want to see the they want to see that. And then I think once you get those, the right type of coaches to help this product, it will be good.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it, and that seems to be the consensus amongst a lot of people I speak with. Is just like it is like night and day. Doesn't begin to describe the difference.
Yeah, I mean, we had AF1 University, and this is stuff that this is the stuff I used to go with Coach Arbet with, where you have all the coaches in there. They're talking about things. How can we make this product better? Talk about the rules. That's when you got guys in there that there is no egos. How can we make this product better? what we got to do to make sure that everybody's successful going forward, because it's like I said, it is a business, and then I realize everybody's part of it. It just can't be the Albanys. It can't be the Nashvilles. It's got to be everybody.
Yeah.
So that's why the one thing about it with Steve, with Mike, with the other owners, is that they all believe in it. They believe in what this product has, and it all starts with strong leadership.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see the direction. It seems like the ship is being steered in the right direction.
It was tough though, because we was in some shaky waters back in the day. But now
to say the least.
Yes.
Yeah. So Coach, I really appreciate you hopping on today. One last question here. Talk to me about the city of Billings and how they've really rallied around the Outlaws. Like the Outlaws have been around for a little bit, but like you mentioned earlier, they've kind of had a bit of resurgence over the past couple years. Well, what has the Billings community meant to this team?
Actually, great, man. Everybody keeps talking about Billings little, man. Billings is a big city. Spread out. The people here are absolutely wonderful. We had to. There were some, rough times here where you had an owner come in and kind of, bamboozle some people. But Steve has the right. And the biggest thing is everything that we said we've done. And the one thing, winning cures all. Our first game when we played against Wichita, we didn't have that many. But once people start seeing it and start understanding what the game is, and the thing is it was a great job of our social media. I thought Amber did a great job with and also Destiny of making sure that people got to know these kids instead of a number or something. We were out and about and we were doing our community work and basically the biggest thing, and we have a phrase here, is called our town, our team. And it goes from like I said, from Steve all the way down to whoever our 30. Everybody understands if it's not for the people in Billings, this is not going to work. And one thing about it feels good now to go out and have dinner and people recognize you and they great job, coach, instead of, man, y'all owe me money from back in 2020 and all that. But now, like I said, Steve has the right and we're doing things the right way and we've got a plan.
That's exciting. Yeah, love to see the direction that the Billings franchise is going and the league. It just seems like everything is finally going the right direction. We're getting some positive momentum. So, Coach, really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
We'll have to stay in contact. We'll have to do this again maybe a little bit before the season actually starts.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to Coach Walker for joining the show. This was a ton of fun talking with him about his career in the heyday of arena football in the 90s and 2000s and what keeps him around in the game and that relationship that he's developed with Steven Titus, the owner of the Billings Outlaws, and everything they've been able to accomplish in what was a turbulent 2024. So I know he is very excited for a less turbulent 2025 and dare I say steady 2025 moving forward. But again, thank you so much to Coach Walker for joining the show today and talking through his career. It was a blast and the time flew by. So diving into AF1 news, first thing I wanted to talk about was the Oregon Lightning being announced as the 12th AF1 franchise for 2025. So it was a little bit surprising to see another Oregon team, if in my opinion, after how everything kind of worked out or didn't work out rather for the Oregon Black Bears in 2024, but they were able to find an ownership group in Bend, Oregon, and they checked all the boxes. They passed all the tests that the AF1 front office threw at them, and the Lightning are here. So the Oregon Lightning are going to be led by Coach Chuck Jones, who was the coach for the Oregon Black Bears in 2024. But realistically, he was the reason why they survived as long as they did without some of the support that they should have gotten from leadership or lack of leadership within that organization. So I'm excited to see Chuck Jones get another shot because we talked about it with Jonathan McAllister a few weeks back, where he is a leader of men and he is a motivator. He is one that will get the troops fired up before the game, during the game, at halftime, heck, probably even after the game as well. So I'm excited to see him get a shot. And it looks like they're going to be playing in the same venue that I believe is the Oregon High Desert Storm. I think I got it. It's like Storm. Yeah, it's High Desert Storm. That's what it is. So playing in the same venue there. So I'm excited to see some of the updates that they do. I've gotten a little hint at some things that they may be doing. So I'm excited to see the Oregon Lightning start to roll that out. But another show's account on X/Twitter was the first to report it on Tuesday morning. So shout out to Rebound Off the Net for getting that scoop. Apparently one of the I guess one of the other owners probably tipped him off that he's probably interviewed before. So unfortunately, Rebound Off the Net has blocked Off the Wall on all socials. So he continues to do good work regardless. So go give him a follow, go give him a shout, tell him Off the Wall said hi. So the Oregon Lightning are a team that will be joining the AF1 in 2025. And at the beginning of the show, I mentioned there's a team that thinks they're joining in 2025 that remains to be seen what's going to happen with them. And that team is the Las Vegas Kings. So it's a very weird situation that is hard to talk through. So what I did was I made a blog post on offthewallfb.com. So go check that out. The blog post will also be linked in the YouTube description and the Spotify and Apple Podcasts description as well. But it's just a bizarre situation where the owner of the Las Vegas Kings just seems to continue to put the cart before the horse, continues to count the chickens before they're hatched, whatever idiom you want to use here. It's just a weird situation. It's just a bizarre way for a franchise that wants to be taken seriously is acting, especially when it comes to joining a league that will give them a ton of credibility. But again, not going to fully dive into it now, but go to offthewallfb.com to go check out the blog and let me know what you think. So with the news we're going through today, we have a good with the Oregon Lightning, we have a bad with the Las Vegas Kings, and now we kind of have an ugly situation developing down in Nashville with the Nashville Kats. So on Tuesday of this week, when the show drops, it was publicly announced that the ownership group of the Nashville Kats was suing one of their investors for essentially flaking on an agreement, somewhere in the range of $2.5 million that he just never paid into what they were trying to do. It looks like it's going to be a very tricky situation to navigate, and all options seem to be on the table at this point. We haven't seen any player signings. We haven't seen any updates on coaching staff, anything in terms of like, yeah, we're getting ready for 2025. Like there's not really much of that we've seen on some other teams' social media in the AF1. We haven't really seen that with the Nashville Kats. We haven't seen that. And now I guess we kind of know why, where this has kind of been brewing behind the scenes and now it's public. So the fact that's happening now when teams are signing players and getting ready for the 2025 season makes me a little bit worried that we may not see the Nashville Kats in 2025. And I think that's a very real possibility. The full story is a Google search away. So just search Nashville Kats ownership suing. I don't know, any combination of those words, you'll find it eventually. But I'm not going to go into full detail on it just because it would just be me reading a article online, and you can do that yourself. I'm not going to do that to you. It's kind of ironic that Jeff Fisher was a part of the Nashville group last year, saved the season for the AFL in 2024. Now the Nashville group that he came from may not participate in 2025. So it's just a weird way of how that all shook out. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how things go from here. But again, a non-zero chance that the Cats don't play in 2025. Then lastly, with AF1, earlier this week, the AF1 released an updated list of all the letters of intent that each team has signed players to, kind of giving a full breakdown of who has signed where up to this point. So I truthfully haven't had the opportunity to go through it in full just yet to break it down and see where teams are at, but I will be doing so in a blog a little bit later this week. So stay tuned to the socials for when that drops, and probably shoot for like a Thursday or Friday of this week for when that happens, but stay tuned to our socials. I will definitely throw it on there for you. Shifting over to the IFL, we have a head coaching extension that was announced earlier this week with the Quad City Steamwheelers. Corey Ross will be returning as the head coach of Quad City. He's been with the organization since 2018, and he's he's one of the most well-tenured coaches in all of indoor and arena football. So glad to see that continuity return to Quad City. They seem to kind of have some things figured out last year. They had a two quarterback system that didn't work out too well for them. They did make the playoffs, but ultimately did not reach their full potential due to some of the inconsistency there. So I know that's something they'll be looking to address specifically at the quarterback position in 2025, but they did also announce a handful of players that were re-signed for 2025 as well. And friend of the program, Malik Duncan, we interviewed him a low ways back. He re-signed with Quad City for the 2025 season, as well as linebacker Bubba Arslanian. So Arslanian was one of my favorite players to watch. He was just a violent linebacker out there, and he had the 90s, 80s linebacker aesthetic with the neck roll, and he just looked like a gnarly dude, and he was laying people out left and right. So he really turned it on towards the second half of the season in 2024. So the fact that he's one of the first players re-signed has me excited to tune into some Quad City games next season. And they also brought in Debonair Concliffe. So he was a wide receiver for Duke City last year. Duke City obviously is no longer around, at least for 2025. So Mr. Concliffe was looking for a new home. He's a big wide receiver. He even split some time at defensive end last year, and he was one of the go-to targets at wide receiver for the Duke City quarterback carousel that they had. So he's very talented, and I'm excited to see how Quad City uses him and how they kind of work him in. So some really solid pieces for Quad City to start with, and we'll see how they continue to build on it for the Steamwheelers. So staying in the Eastern Conference, we have the Tulsa Oilers up next, and we mentioned it last week about how we might start to see the Frisco effect happen as Frisco Fighters are no longer a team for 2025 at least. The head coach of Frisco from last year is now the offensive coordinator for the Oilers. So you would expect to see some offensive players and maybe some defensive players too kind of trickle over from Frisco to Tulsa. And we saw that the first signing of that already happen with running back Jimmy Smith, formerly of the Frisco Fighters, the past couple of seasons, signing with the Tulsa Oilers over this past weekend. So I feel like that's going to be the first of many. Tulsa had a great defense last year with Coach Marvin Jones. Frisco had a really dynamic offense last year with Andre Coles calling the shots. You put the two together, you basically merge the rosters together, which is probably more realistic than we may think. Tulsa is going to be a very dangerous team, so we'll see how they continue to trickle in some of those Frisco players from last season, because I feel like this is just the first of many that we'll be seeing. Next up, we've got the Green Bay Blizzard. They re-signed Rafiq Abdul-Wahid. He is a defensive end who was lights out all of last season. I feel like he should have been an all-IFL first teamer. He made the all-IFL off the wall first team. That is for darn sure. But he was a dynamic game breaker with Sean Mustin on the defensive line last season. They just caused havoc up and down the line, and was one of the reasons why that Green Bay Blizzard defense was number one in the league for so long. So the fact that they brought him back is great, because they're going to have a little bit of a rebuild ahead of them on that defense with Ravarius Rivers going to San Antonio, Sean Mustin going to the CFL. That leaves some opportunity for some other players to get plugged in here and there. But I have all the faith in the world that Coach Roberson is going to find those pieces that he needs to be successful on defense, and look for Green Bay to have a top-notch defense once again next season. Then lastly, we're flipping over to the Western Conference with the San Diego Strike Force. So kicker Ernesto Lacayo, one of the most interesting men in all of arena and indoor football. He's joining the Strike Force after Duke City folded this past week. Absolutely electric kicker who can flip the momentum of a game in an instant. The kicking game was a problem for San Diego last year. Just a ton of inconsistencies across the board. Cost them multiple games last year and made some games a little more uncomfortable than they should have been for San Diego. So the fact that they were so good last year, despite those kicking woes, you mix in a generationally good indoor kicker to a team that was already that dynamic, and it's gonna be great. I can't wait. So it's a very welcome signing if you are a Strike Force fan. And I think another signing that will get announced here soon was on the goifl.com transaction page is wide receiver Journey Sloan. So Journey Sloan was also with Duke City last season, and he was absolutely dynamic. He was making highlight catches all over the place for the Gladiators, but he was just really getting held back by the lack of consistent quarterback play. That was a common theme for Duke City last season, and was something that really impacted the productivity of these wide receivers. And you pair a dynamic, highlight play worthy wide receiver like Sloan with one of the best indoor quarterbacks of all time in Nate Davis, Sloan's going to get his. If he can stay healthy, he's going to get his. And I just feel like he has the potential to be amongst the league leaders in yardage and touchdowns if he can stay on the field and if he can stay healthy, because Nate Davis loves slinging it around the yard. He loves throwing to his wide receivers, and Sloan has proven that he can make plays. He just needs a quarterback to get it to him. I think he found it in San Diego. And that's the show for this week. Thank you so much for checking it out. And thanks again to Coach Walker for taking the time to talk about his career, both on the field and off the field as a coach. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Billings continues to rebuild and reload and find those players that fit what they want to do and continue to play that classic arena football style on both offense and defense. So excited to see what Billings does and excited to see how AF1 continues to build from here. IFL schedule is coming next week on Halloween. AF1 schedule is coming within the next couple of weeks. I think they said no later than the second week of November. So we've got that to look forward to. We'll be able to break down some of those games. The slow period is behind us. We're starting to ramp things up. We're starting to get to the exciting part of the off season. So again, give us a follow on socials if you don't already, at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball. We are on Instagram, X/Twitter, and TikTok. Go follow us on all three of those. On YouTube, please like and subscribe and like, comment, all that stuff. Do all the things and stuff that everyone else says to do. There's a reason why they say it. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please go rate the show page. Give us 5 stars. Helps the algo. Helps us bump up in the search results. So only 24 hours in a day. The fact that you chose to spend like an hour 15, hour 20. I think I might be close on that one. I don't know. But the fact that you chose to spend that time here listening to me talk about arena football means a lot. So appreciate the support so far. And yeah, we'll see you around. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.